Good morning.
Good morning.
I love that. Good morning and welcome to Allen Avenue Unitarian Universalist Church's in-person and online worship. Whether today is your first time here or you've been coming for years, we're so glad you are with us. My name is Barbara Murray and my pronouns are she and her, and I'm serving as this morning's worship service associate. We are growing a community that transforms lives through the power of love. Our mission calls us to celebrate diversity, encourage spiritual growth, and promote social responsibility while we travel with care on the earth. A special welcome to those at home who are joining us on Zoom today. If you're attending for the first time, please go to our website and fill out the welcome card so we know more about you. I'm going to now share some announcements. This is from the spiritual enrichment groups. Being part of a SEG is an opportunity to be in a group and deepen relationships and foster community among your SEG group members. Usually, groups meet twice each month for 2 hours. Later this month, we will begin a 6-session group which will meet during March, April, May, and June, and this is a chance to get a taste of what a SEG experience can be. In addition, there will be a new group forming that will meet totally on Zoom. If SEG is something that interests you, for more information or to sign up, you can contact one of the SEG coordinators, Patricia Ellen or Anne-Marie Cantanzano, or speak with Patricia, who's right here, after the service today. Thank you. Any more announcements? I sort of knew that.
I see what you're doing.
I'm Jim Mason, and this is the call for nominations for Share the Plate. First, we did get some more nominations this week, so thank you to those of you who filled out the form. We could use a lot more, even though if we get a large number of nominations, it causes untold hours of pain and mental agony to those of us who have to somehow winnow it down to the best and most deserving nominees. There are 2 ways to submit a nomination. There's a form on Breeze, and you'll find the link in the weekly newsletter. If you're a paper and pencil person, and believe me, at my age, I get it, there are forms on the social justice bulletin board around the corner by the RE office, and when you fill it out, please fold it up and put it in the slot for the Social Justice Committee. So if you've got a charity that you want the church to send $500 or $600 to, and you know you do, this is your chance. So we look forward to seeing your nominations. Thank you.
Now, we invite you all to take this opportunity to silence your cell phones so that we can be fully present to one another. After the service, please grab a cup of coffee or tea in the kitchen window and stay for conversation in the sanctuary, or head down to the end of the long hallway to join a group for the brown bag lunch. Those on Zoom may stay on and connect with one another. And now let us center our hearts and minds with the ringing of the chimes.
Good morning. I can't operate without a piece of paper, so thank you very much. I'm Steve Hansen, the chair of the Stewardship Committee, and today's Stewardship Sunday, so I need to give a very small explanation about what's going on. The other members of the committee are Sylvia Hansen, Pam Jackson, and David Wilcock. Lately, it feels like some of the threads of our society are definitely unraveling. And as a response, we decided that this year's stewardship theme is weaving our community together. And we can all contribute towards reconnecting by participating in our stewardship campaign. Notice how cleverly I worked that in, right? This year, the pledge will continue the simplified approach from last year, which worked out really well. There's two ways to give pledges. One is online, which is up and running already. The other one is we're going to send out a letter with 2 boxes to check. One says, same pledge as last year. The second one will say, increase by the rate of inflation. And the third one will say some other amount. And so you'll have a return envelope and send it back, and everything should go well. Okay? All pledges, whatever the amount, are gratefully received by the entire congregation. So thank you for your generosity. Okay.
Good morning. I missed you the last 3 weeks. Oh my gosh. For those of you I haven't met before, my name is Reverend Tara. I use they, them pronouns. I serve as the minister here at A2U2 Church, or A2U2 for short. It is my delight to be with you in person and on Zoom this morning. And our worship experience today is designed with all ages in mind. So there is no separate RE program. If, however, your child would prefer to play in the nursery, although we've got a lot of awesome playing happening here, Liam and Emmett were just a minute late, and they are back in the nursery now to play if that becomes preferable at any point in the service. That being said, it is truly a joy to be together with members, friends, visitors of all ages here in one place this morning. The wiggles and noises and chirps and even cries that the youngest among us make and bring are a joyful reminder of the life and vibrancy of this multi-generational beloved community where all are welcome. So enjoy the song. A noisy church is a amen. Today we reflect together on the theme of community. As we begin our annual pledge drive, we remember why it is that we invest and take care of this place that is our spiritual home. We imagine ourselves each as one thread, our shared life together a weaving of the tapestry of community. Speaking of tapestry, everyone here in person should have received a roll of fabric. If you did not, maybe give a wave, and Steve will bring you one. Oh, it looks like everyone did. Impressive. All right. Now, as you settle in and allow yourselves, we'll go back to that later in the service, you'll see. You can probably tell what we're going to do with it. As you settle in and allow yourselves to arrive fully in this place, hear these words of invocation by Rachel Rott. Welcome, you questioners, seekers of truth with a capital T, pilgrims longing for sanctuary, travelers needing harbors from the storm. Welcome those who are holding on by a thread, determined breakers of the chains of loneliness and isolation. You pushed through your fear because something told you that you deserve to belong. Welcome those who braid ropes again and again. You've been here and there. You've been there for our siblings who were just hanging on. You gave them a hand into community and told them they could rest here. Welcome you who seek spiritual and religious community for your children and your grandchildren. You entrust your young people here, and we as a community commit to nurture and respect them. Welcome children and youth. You give us the gift of your wisdom, your joy, your curiosity, and your trust that we will hold all of it safe. How do we make this tender place wider? How do we stretch into a bolder welcome, a radical generosity of the heart? Can we imagine ourselves as stewards and ushers, not only into this space, but into our wider circle of belonging? Can we commit and recommit to being accountable to one another as an anti-racist, anti-oppressive community that centers marginalized voices, that listens to those on the margins, especially when what they are saying is hard to hear? Can we be willing to change? When we break our agreements with one another, can we offer amends? Can we be humble and generous? There is grace enough here. There is in this place the possibility of healing, repair, of making things right within ourselves, between us, and in the wider world. There is in this place tremendous possibility. So friends, come and be welcome. You are joyfully called to worship.
As we light our sanctuary chalice this morning, those joining us on Zoom are invited to light a chalice or a candle near you to connect us more deeply with one another. Why community? To remember that one is not a whole number, that we need both roots and wings, that strength comes from relationship and mutuality, that we know in life and through one another.
We light a second candle this morning, a candle of community, as a prayer for peace through justice, for the Ukraine, the Middle East, and all on soil where there is unnecessary violence and war. Will you take a breath with me? Our opening hymn this morning is number 22 in your gray hymnal and up on the screen, Dear Weaver of Our Lives' Design. Dale will play it through once so you can hear the tune, and then let's rise in spirit or body as we sing together. Today is special. We welcome into membership here at Allen Avenue Unitarian Universalist Church people who have chosen to join our community of faith. We are a free faith community. Becoming a member is a choice, a personal and spiritual decision, and membership comes with special rights and responsibilities. Joining this church does not mean subscribing to a creed, but it does mean serious commitment, joining our congregational mission to transform lives through the power of love, to celebrate diversity, encourage spiritual growth, and promote social responsibility as we travel with care on this earth, and to do our part to build a world of compassion, equality, and freedom. Membership means having the right to vote on congregational decisions, and it also means the responsibility of being a steward, of safeguarding the health of the congregation as a whole, so it is here for others in the future. A congregation is a moving, breathing, living, changing thing. And so anytime we bring in even one new member, we have the opportunity to grow together, to share and receive new ideas, new energy, and new voices. We are a different church. Each of these people bring a unique experience and perspective to this community, and we are so grateful for that. Today, we have the joy of welcoming 9 new members and their kids into membership. Today, I'll call your name, and if you could please come up front. I know it's hard to stand up front for some of us. Diane will hand you a few things, and if you can just stay until we do a couple of speaking things, that would be fantastic. Thank you in advance. Audrey Williams, Steve and Deanie Mers, who are rejoining after a time away. We are so thrilled. Julia Reddy and Lauren Poniatowski, and Darrow and Sylvan. Jody Knopfsinger, Chris O'Reilly, Kirsten Dargis, and Emery and Leo, as well as our dear friend AMK, who is with us on Zoom today. You can come a little more in front even if you want. I know. It is a joy to welcome each of you into this beloved community. We invite you to join in sharing the joys and responsibilities of membership. Will you covenant to join us in living out the values of Unitarian Universalism and Allen Avenue's mission together in community? If so, please say, I do. Members of A2U2, will you welcome these new members into our congregation? Will you reach out to them in friendship and be open to their unique gifts and ideas? Will you extend a caring hand to each of them as we journey together in beloved community? If so, please say, we do and we will. Let's give our newest members a warm A2U2 welcome while I give them a hug. And now, a story. I want to tell you a story about a group of people not in some far-off remote village, but in an apartment building in a bustling city. It was one of those apartment buildings that's so big that many people don't even know the other folks who live on their floor. Maybe they know the person across the hallway or right next door, but often people walking through the hallway are, covered in headphones or glued to their phone. Raise your hand if you've ever lived in an apartment building before. I still do, which makes many of us. So we have lots of experience with this. In this particular apartment building, the people that everybody knew were Lee and Sal. They lived on the 6th floor at the end of the hallway, but they were always out and about walking around. Lee always wore a purple cap, and Sal was always chipper. They both greeted people by name, asked how they were doing, and they remembered all the kids' birthdays. Impressive. One day after Lee and Sal hadn't been around for a few days, a neighbor from the 6th floor bumped into Sal in the stairwell. Sal was not their usual chipper self and actually looked quite sad. The neighbor asked Sal how they were doing, and Sal shared that their beloved Lee had passed away. A gifted listener, the neighbor stood with them and listened as Sal shared about their grief and about how they felt like the blanket of warmth and care that used to wrap around them, that was Lee's presence, was gone. As the neighbor continued on their way after the conversation, they had an idea. They could make Sal a grief blanket, a dark, warm cloak that they could wrap around themselves during their time of mourning. They knew some churches even had knitting ministries, so they weren't even reinventing the wheel. They could be their own kind of blanket ministry. So they returned to their home on the 6th floor, pulled out their old wooden loom, and began rummaging around for fibers, fabrics, threads, yarns, whatever they could find. But not only could they not find anything black, they couldn't find anything at all. Darn that Goodwill run. But they remembered that they had seen a young man in the lobby knitting the other day, someone who they recognized actually from the 6th floor. If he has yarn, maybe he has fabric or thread or something else that will make a blanket. The weaver asked the knitter, who didn't have any black fabric but did have some red yarn, and he knew someone from the 7th floor who sewed. He was excited to both give some of his yarn to this effort, knowing and loving Lee and Sal himself, and also pass along the message to the sewer. The 7th floor sewer was sad to hear about Sal's loss, too. She had loved Lee. She didn't have anything black either, but she did have some yellow fabric. She was happy to contribute what she had. And she had a friend on floor 2 with a small child who always had the most adorable little boiled wool shoes. And they looked homemade, so she offered to ask if they had any spare wool. The 2nd floor family was indeed into boiled wool crafts. They had always admired Lee's purple boiled wool cap. They were so sad to learn about Lee's death and thrilled about the possibility of contributing. They did indeed have wool that they could share. It wasn't black, it was purple, and there was plenty of it. The 2nd floor family asked their neighbor, who asked their friends on a different floor, and soon enough, the 6th floor weaver had an apartment full of all kinds of yarns and threads and mystery materials. Definitely enough to make a blanket. None of it was black, but they were sure that Sal would understand. So they got to work at their loom. They wove from side to side while building mates they'd never met before dropped by to see how it was going. As they wove, they got to know their neighbors, grown-ups, kids, and elders. It was like an unexpected open house. They swapped stories and reflected on their love for Lee and Sal. Eventually, the blanket was complete. The weaver held it up It was lumpy and bumpy and very crooked, and it contained every pattern imaginable, every color of the rainbow. It was not what they had imagined at all. But as they held it in their hands, they knew it was just right. The next day, the weaver knocked on Sal's door, and Sal came to the door wrapped in a beautiful dark black fleece blanket. The weaver, seeing Sal already had a grief blanket, began to move the lumpy, bumpy thing behind their back, slightly embarrassed, until Sal's face lit up and they exclaimed, "What is that?" "It's for you," the weaver said, sheepishly holding it up to Sal. "We made it for you so you would be wrapped in our love, all of our love." "All of you?" Sal asked. "Yes," the weaver said, "all of us." In the end, every single apartment in the entire building had contributed something to the blanket, and Sal was delighted. Lee would have loved this, they said, still in disbelief that so many people not only knew who they were, but wanted to contribute to their care. They knew that the road of grief would be long and winding, but realizing that though they lost their beloved companion, they were wrapped in the love of an entire community. With all its lumps and bumps and patterns and colors, life felt possible again. Over time, as Sal emerged from their grief, they noticed that not only were they better connected with their neighbors, but that their neighbors were more deeply connected with each other. And for the first time since losing Lee, they did not feel alone. Would you join me in the spirit of prayer? Spirit of life and love, we are here because we believe what we do matters. We are here because we believe how we live our life matters. That with every act of kindness or meanness, courage or fear, love or hate, we are weaving the fabric of the universe that holds us all. We are here because we need encouragement, because we need strength, because so often we get distracted. We get in a rush, we don't think, we choose the easy way when the harder path is what our spirits truly long for. We are here because none of us is perfect, but together we inspire one another and try again and take another step and make another move. We are here because we have felt the stirrings of love and grace in our hearts and hands, and we crave more of that for ourselves and for everyone. We are here because how we live and who we live with matters. Amen.
Now is the time in our service where we engage in the spiritual practice of generosity. Our gifts support the ministries of this congregation and our work in the broader community. Each week, 1/3 of our offering is given away to a local nonprofit organization doing work to advance our shared values in the world. This month's Share the Plate recipient is Oasis Free Clinics, a nonprofit, no-cost primary care medical practice and dental clinic providing patient-centered care to uninsured adults in Maine, Mid-Coast, Maine. Donations can be made now as the basket is passed through the donate button on our website, or if you are a member on Breeze, remembering to make note that your gift is for Share the Plate. If you are visiting us for the first time this morning, please know that your presence is your gift to us. At this time, our offering will be collected and gratefully received.
And you also have these strips of fabric. We're going to collect those too in separate baskets. So a second basket will come around, and take a moment before you put your fabric in the basket to imbue it with your strength, your gifts, what you bring to this beloved community, your you-ness. Take a moment with intention, and then, like the neighbors in the story, hand it to the basket, and it will be put into a communal weaving. We'll weave together the fabric of life here at Allen Avenue. So you can start passing them, Dale. We'll eventually play. We have a couple of weavers, Sally and Mike Luce, and also any kids who would like to help. So once the fabrics have been collected, you are invited to come forward, weavers, and start to create our fabric, which is going to happen throughout the service until it's complete. Our offering will now be collected and gratefully received. As we continue collecting the fabric, please remain in your seats, but join me in a sung response, the words of our mission statement, which will be up on the screen. Dale will play it through once, and then let's sing together.
Thank you, everyone. It was 1969, and I was yearning to weave. I don't know why. My fractured life, mother of two, student, teacher, wife, neurotic. I just wanted to weave, thinking that would somehow make things whole. So I bought a little loom, a little plastic loom that wove a little square. And I wove square after square after square from dime store yarn, hoping that would make things whole. It didn't. I found my way to a funky shop in Boulder, and it looked like heaven. You know that look. Amid the clutter and joy, a loom hung on the wall, a simple frame, some heddle rods, the promise of cloth. Cloth, as it came to pass, with odd gaps and sags and hourglass shape, and nothing like what my mind was yearning for. For that, I needed a different loom, more loom, with lifts and pedals and cranks and levers and cords, which soon enough that little shop in Boulder, grown big, was able to provide. I could have just stuck to weaving cloth, warp after warp, yard after yard. It could have been a good life, but something still was missing. The famous Zen koan says, "What is the sound of one hand clapping?" Well, what is the sound of one loom thrumming and beating in solitude? If one lone voice in the forest sings of weaving and there is no one to hear, is there any song? Making things whole takes more than thread, more than looms, more than warp and weft. It's those who make the looms, who make the cloth, who sing the songs together, who weave their lives together, who make things whole.
Between our divisions,
Creating and sustaining a community of faith is much like weaving a tapestry or a blanket. Making things whole takes more than thread, more than looms, more than warp and weft. It's those who make the looms, who make the cloth, who sing the songs together, who weave their lives together, who make things whole. We are the raw materials, the loom, and the weavers. Creating and sustaining a community of faith like this one requires time, money, patience and vision, transformation, flexibility. It takes the skills, ideas, talents, contributions of many people. It calls for both warp and weft. An excerpt from an old weaving book shared with me by a colleague reads, "The first step in weaving is choosing the yarn for the warp and weft. The warp, which is yarn or thread that forms the basis of the tapestry, will be under much tension and must be ready to take the strain and wear as the weft is woven into it. The weft creates the pattern of the tapestry. It can be of any strength or texture. For the weft, don't hesitate to mix novelty yarns with plain yarns, dull with lustrous, soft, furry with hard twist, and thick with very fine. Some of us are the warp, the stalwarts who have been here for what seems like ever, who have weathered the biggest storms and greatest joys of life in community, whose contributions withstand tension and are ready to take strain. Some of us are the weft, the dull and lustrous, the soft, fine, thick, scratchy, a variety of strengths, textures, personalities, abilities, theologies, communication and conflict styles, approaches to justice, to parenting, to dying, to living. Some are here every Saturday, every Sunday. No one's really here on Saturday. Some are here every Sunday, rain or shine, pledging faithfully, generously year after year, serving on committees and in leadership. Others, participations and contributions ebb and flow with the tides of life. Attendance, giving of money and time depend on what's available in any given season. And all of it, the warp and the weft, the loom, the weavers, the fabric, all of it is needed. As Steve shared at the beginning of the service, this month is the time in our congregational year where we pledge our financial support for the year to come. From the pledges, we create a budget, and from the budget, we live, we do our ministry. And I can't tell you how important this is. It can be hard to talk about money. For some, stressful, for others, just boring. But really, when we talk about money, we're talking about values. The values of interdependence and community over individualism. That's how I feel about individualism, too. The values of generosity over fear. Clarity amidst intentionally sown chaos. There is much being asked of us right now. And there is enormous need in our wider community. When we aren't stretched thin as a church, we can spend less time talking about whether we can make it through another climate change summer without cooling in the sanctuary, or hold off on cutting down that massive limb that's looming large over the building. When we aren't so focused on being stretched thin, we can actually rise to meet the moment, this unprecedented opportunity to show up with strength and courage and spiritual tenacity. We can do good ministry and be a blessing to the world. The stewards of this church from generations past gave so that we who are here today have the support of the loom. Land, a building, a small endowment, infrastructure, bylaws, and staff. The support of the loom helps us to be the warp when we feel strong enough, and to be the weft, adding our texture, color, and flair of the tapestry we are weaving together. Every dollar, every Sunday you show up, every time you ask for help, work on a committee, engage in social action, every chirp and laugh and cry of a baby or child, every email you send, newsletter you read, all of this is the raw material for the fabric of this community. This life-sustaining, imperfect, quirky, lumpy and bumpy, crooked and patterned, fiercely loving, gorgeous community of souls. Making things whole takes more than thread, more than looms, more than warp and weft. It's those who sing the songs together, who weave their lives together, who make things whole. May we be a people who make things whole. And now, though our weaving isn't quite complete, community never is. We're going to bless this tapestry of beloved community made up of your gifts, your needs, your presence, woven by our own hands. This loom will stay with us through March to the end of our stewardship campaign, a visual representation of our contributions to this place. Later in the spring, Sue Malcolm and Karen Wilcock have volunteered to quilt the fabric into a pulpit cloth to hang here in the front of the sanctuary. So this tapestry will, in a new form, remain with us, a symbol of the strength, diversity, and love of the A2U2 community. Let the words of our opening hymn be our prayer. O spinner, weaver of our lives' design, your loom is love. May we who are gathered here be empowered by that love to weave patterns of truth and justice into a web of life that is strong, beautiful, and everlasting. And now, hands outstretched toward the loom to offer our blessing. Zoom folks, you too. May these our gifts, woven together in a single garment, be for seeking justice and spreading compassion, be for building bridges and cultivating community, for healing hearts, nurturing spirit, for reminding us all that we are not alone. Bless these gifts, our gathering and our commitments, and our going forth hand in hand, stronger together, guided by love. Blessed be. Let's sing 128 in your gray hymnal, For All That Is Our Life. Henry Wyman once wrote that inevitably in our lives, we commit ourselves to something, whether worthy or not. The direction and intensity of our loyalties give shape and meaning to our lives. Loyalties, commitments, covenants, the promises we make to one another, these are the things that tell us to what we belong. By doing so, they tell us who we are. Our worship has ended, and our service begins. Go in peace, but first stay for cake as we welcome our newest members and celebrate this community.